Think about the last time you wanted something you couldn't have. Maybe it was a concert ticket that sold out in 90 seconds, a house in a neighborhood that got too expensive, a product that was back ordered for months. That feeling, that gap between what you want and what you can actually get, has a name. Economists call it scarcity, and once you understand, you'll never look at a price tag the same way again. Before we get into the idea of scarcity, we need to separate two things that economists care about: needs and wants. Needs are the basics: food, water, shelter, safety. Without these, you don't survive. This list is actually pretty short. Wants are everything else: a new phone, a vacation, a nicer car, better sneakers, a bigger apartment. And here's the critical insight: wants are unlimited. You'll never have enough. You have more wants all the time, every second, and they're changing. And so, with that, no matter how wealthy you become, no matter how much you already have, you will always want something more. That's not a character flaw, it's human nature. Every economist, every business, every government operates on this assumption: humans' wants are infinite. Now, here's the problem: resources, the things we use to satisfy those wants, are not unlimited, they're finite. Economists organize resources into three main categories. First, land. Those are the natural resources and physical spaces that we have to work with. Next, labor or human resources, the hours, skills, and efforts that human beings can actually put in. And lastly, capital or money. Things like tools, machines, equipment, and the money that we use to produce things. None of these, land, human resources, or capital, are unlimited. There's only so much that we can actually utilize, right? So there's only so much arable land. Workers only have 24 hours in a day, and capital takes time and resources to build. And this is where things get interesting. When you put unlimited human wants next to finite resources, you get a problem. A fundamental, unavoidable, never fully solved problem. When unlimited wants meet limited resources, you get scarcity. And scarcity isn't a temporary problem that better technology and smarter policies will eventually eliminate. It's the permanent condition of every economy, every business, and every household that has ever existed, including yours. Scarcity is why you have to choose. You can't have everything. You have to decide what matters most, what to produce, what to buy, and what to let go. And those decisions, billions of them made every day by millions of people, are what an economy actually is. Economics, at its core, is the study of that problem. How do individuals, businesses, and entire societies decide how to allocate scarce resources to satisfy unlimited wants? Notice the word allocate. Not solve, not eliminate, allocate, because scarcity doesn't go away. We just develop better and worse systems for managing it. In the next section, we're going to look at the primary mechanism modern economies use to manage scarcity, and that's called a market. Specifically, how supply and demand work together to set prices, and why that elegant model is more theoretical than most econ textbooks are willing to admit. In early 2023, egg prices hit record highs, nearly $7 for a dozen in some parts of the country. Social media blamed grocery chains. Politicians blamed corporations, but the actual explanation is simpler and more useful than any of those. A combination of bird flu outbreaks wiped out millions of laying hens. Feed costs had risen, energy costs were up, the supply of eggs collapsed, and prices reflected that. This is supply and demand doing exactly what supply and demand does. And once you can read it, you can see it everywhere. Let's build this step by step. First, supply. Supply is the quantity of a good or service that producers are willing and able to offer for sale at various price levels. The key word is willing. When prices are high, producing is more profitable, so producers supply more. But when prices are low, it's less worth producing, so they supply less. That gives us an upward sloping supply curve. Price goes up, quantity supplied goes up. Price goes down, quantity supplied goes down. That relationship is called the law of supply, and it holds across virtually every market on Earth. Think about it through the egg example. When egg prices spiked, farmers who had exited the market started considering getting back in. Higher prices signal, produce more of this thing. Now, the other side is what's called demand. Demand is the quantity of a good or service that consumers are willing and able to purchase at various price levels. When price goes up, demand goes down. When price goes down, demand goes up. People respond to price. When eggs hit $7, plenty of households cut back, substituted other proteins, or bought smaller quantities. That's the law of demand in action. So now we have two forces in every market. Producers pushing from one direction, they want prices high, and consumers pushing from the other. They want prices low. Where do those two forces meet? Where is that balancing act that the economy needs to be sustainable? Where supply meets demand, that point, that intersection point, is called equilibrium. The equilibrium price is where the market clears, meaning every producer willing to sell at that price finds a buyer, and every buyer willing to pay that price finds a seller. No excess supply sitting in a warehouse, no frustrated customers who can't find the product. P star, Q star. The two values every market is theoretically moving toward at any given moment. The key word there is theoretically. It's doing a lot of work in that sentence, which is where the textbook usually stops and where the real lesson begins. They move toward it constantly, but by the time they get close, something else has shifted. Input costs change. The price of chicken feed goes up. Supply drops. Prices spike. Consumer preferences change. People decide they want plant-based protein, and demand for eggs softens. A weather event disrupts a harvest. A shipping lane closes. A competitor enters the market. Every one of these events shifts either the supply curve or the demand curve, which moves the equilibrium point, which means the market has to adjust again and again and even again. Equilibrium is less like a resting point and more like a compass bearing. Markets are always moving in its direction, but the terrain keeps changing. This is why running a business is hard, quite frankly. You're not operating in a static model. You're making decisions in real time. This real time has inputs, prices, competitors, and consumer behavior shifting around you. The supply and demand model gives you a framework for understanding why those shifts happen and what direction prices are likely to move. That's enormously valuable, as long as you remember it's a map, not the actual territory. So, here's how it works. Markets use price to manage scarcity. That's what the supply and demand model shows us. But if you're running a business, you're not just watching the market from the outside. You're inside of it. You're deciding how much to produce, what to charge, and when it makes sense to grow. And those decisions have a framework too. And that's where we're going next. Moving forward into our next episode, we're going to be looking at a couple of different things. We're going to be talking about economies of scale, economies of scope, and then also thinking about how much can you continue to grow until you're no longer making profit. So let's take what we just learned theoretically, and let's learn how to apply it to our businesses. I hope to see you in the next episode.